This engine was supposed to save Chevrolet's reputation. Instead, it nearly destroyed it. While America demanded fuel economy, GM delivered a compromise that pleased nobody. The 262 V6 wasn't just underpowered, it was a ticking time bomb disguised as progress. Born from desperation, cursed by corner cutting, and killed by its own fatal flaws. The engine that proved good intentions aren't enough. Born from crisis. By 1975, the American automotive industry was in full panic mode. The fuel crises had shattered consumer confidence in V8 engines, and corporate average fuel economy standards loomed like a death sentence. Chevrolet faced an impossible choice: build smaller engines or watch their market share evaporate. GM's solution seemed brilliant on paper. Take their proven 350 small block V8 and simply remove 2 cylinders. The 262 V6 would share tooling, manufacturing processes, and parts with the legendary small block family while delivering the fuel economy that new regulations demanded. The engineering team promised the best of both worlds: V8 smoothness with 6-cylinder efficiency. The 262 would power everything from Camaros to Chevettes, providing adequate performance while meeting strict fuel economy targets. Corporate executives loved the cost savings and manufacturing simplicity, but the 262 was doomed from conception. GM's engineers were tasked with creating a miracle, an engine that could replace V8 performance while consuming V6 fuel. Physics doesn't negotiate, and the 262 would pay the price for GM's impossible expectations. Engineering compromises. The 262's fundamental problem was right there in its DNA. It was literally a V8 with 2 cylinders chopped off. While this simplified manufacturing, it created mechanical nightmares that GM either ignored or hoped would resolve themselves in production. The firing order became the engine's first curse. Unlike purpose-built V6 engines with optimized firing intervals, the 262 inherited the small block's firing sequence minus 2 cylinders. This created irregular firing pulses that generated vibrations no amount of balancing could eliminate completely. The crankshaft design represented classic GM corner cutting. Instead of engineering a proper V6 crankshaft with appropriate counterweights, they simply used a modified V8 crank with missing throws. The result was an inherently unbalanced rotating assembly that shook itself apart over time. Cooling system design suffered from the same lazy approach. The 262nd used V8 cooling passages and water pump designs that were oversized for a 6-cylinder engine, creating uneven cooling and hot spots that led to premature wear and gasket failures. Every shortcut GM took to save development costs became a reliability time bomb waiting to explode in customer driveways. The performance disaster. The 262's power output was embarrassing even by Malaise-era standards. At just 110 horsepower, it struggled to move mid-size cars with anything approaching competence. Acceleration was leisurely at best, painful at worst. Motor Trend's road tests revealed 0 to 60 times that made economy cars look quick by comparison. But low power was only part of the performance disaster. The engine's torque curve was completely wrong for its applications. Peak torque arrived at RPMs where normal driving rarely ventured, leaving drivers with a powerless feeling during typical acceleration needs. The carburetor setup compounded the problems. GM's emissions-choked 2-barrel carburetor struggled to feed the 262 adequately, creating flat spots and hesitation that made driving genuinely unpleasant. The engine felt agricultural, crude, and thoroughly unrefined compared to contemporary offerings from Ford and Chrysler. Highway driving became an exercise in patience. The 262nd required constant downshifting to maintain speed on moderate grades, and passing required careful planning and often prayer. Drivers who expected Chevrolet's traditional performance were shocked by the 262's agricultural character. Real-world testing revealed even more shocking deficiencies. In Camaro applications, the 262 turned America's pony car into a mockery of performance. Quarter-mile times stretched into the high 18-second range, numbers that would have been embarrassing in a full-size sedan. Air conditioning use made acceleration even more pathetic, with some testers reporting that the 262 couldn't maintain highway speeds on steep grades with the AC running. Car and Driver famously wrote that the 262-powered Camaro redefined the meaning of slow, while Road and Track suggested buyers consider walking as a viable alternative. The engine's power deficit was so severe that many owners reported being unable to merge safely onto highways, creating genuine safety concerns that went far beyond mere performance disappointment. The engine that was supposed to save Chevrolet's reputation was instead destroying it one disappointed customer at a time. Fatal flaws revealed. The 262's reliability problems became legendary for all the wrong reasons. The hastily adapted V8 architecture created stress concentrations that no amount of engineering band-aids could fix. Engines began failing with alarming regularity, often before warranty periods expired. The primary killer was bearing failure. The unbalanced crankshaft created oscillating loads that exceeded the bearing design limits. Main bearings would literally pound themselves to death, taking crankshafts with them. Connecting rod bearings suffered similar fates, leading to catastrophic engine failures that left owners stranded. Head gasket problems plagued the 262 throughout its production life. The uneven cooling and thermal stress from the vibration issues caused gaskets to fail prematurely. Unlike simple maintenance items, these failures often required complete engine rebuilds due to associated damage. Oil consumption became a 262 trademark. The constant vibration loosened rings and wore valve guides, leading to engines that consumed oil at alarming rates. Owners learned to carry spare oil and check levels obsessively, but many engines were damaged before problems became apparent. GM issued multiple service bulletins attempting to address these issues, but the problems were fundamental to the engine's design. No amount of updates could fix what was wrong from conception. Market rejection consumer reaction to the 262 was swift and brutal. Word-of-mouth reviews destroyed the engine's reputation faster than GM's marketing department could rebuild it. Dealers reported customers specifically requesting anything but the 262 when shopping for new vehicles. The automotive press piled on mercilessly. Road tests consistently ranked 262 powered vehicles at the bottom of comparison tests, citing poor performance, rough operation, and questionable reliability. Motor Trend called it an engine that makes you appreciate walking. Sales numbers told the devastating story. Vehicles equipped with the 262 sat on dealer lots while competitors moved quickly. GM was forced to offer incentives and rebates just to move 262 powered inventory, cutting deeply into profit margins. Fleet managers, traditionally GM's most loyal customers, began switching to Ford and Chrysler alternatives. The 262's reputation for expensive failures made it unsuitable for commercial applications where reliability was paramount. Insurance companies began tracking 262 equipped vehicles separately, noting higher breakdown rates and roadside assistance claims. Rental car agencies quietly removed 262 powered vehicles from their fleets after repeated customer complaints and maintenance headaches. Even GM's own employees started requesting different engines in their company cars, creating an embarrassing internal revolt against the corporation's own product. Trade-in values plummeted as used car dealers learned to avoid 262 powered vehicles, knowing they would sit unsold on lots for months. By 1978, GM dealers were begging the factory to provide alternative engine options. The 262 had become a sales liability that was actively driving customers to competitors. Something had to change quickly, or Chevrolet's reputation would suffer permanent damage. Death and replacement. GM's solution was swift and decisive. Kill the 262 and pretend it never existed. By 1979, the engine disappeared from most applications, replaced by either four-cylinder engines or more sophisticated V6 designs that actually worked properly. The 262's replacement, the 229 V6, represented everything the 262 should have been. Purpose-built as a V6 from the ground up, it featured proper firing intervals, balanced rotating assemblies, and cooling systems designed for six-cylinder operation. The difference in refinement and reliability was immediately apparent. Chevrolet quietly discontinued the 262 without fanfare or explanation. Marketing materials simply stopped mentioning it, and dealer training focused on newer, more reliable alternatives. The few remaining 262 engines in inventory were deeply discounted just to clear them out. The aftermarket quickly abandoned the 262 as well. Performance parts manufacturers saw no market for upgrades to an engine that buyers actively avoided. Rebuild parts became scarce as demand evaporated along with the engine's reputation. Within 5 years of its introduction, the 262 had become automotive history's most forgettable failure. An engine so thoroughly rejected that even mentioning it became embarrassing for GM engineers. Lessons and legacy. The 262 V6 taught GM valuable lessons about the dangers of shortcuts and corner cutting in engine development. The disaster proved that sharing architecture between different engine configurations required careful engineering, not simple part deletion. GM's subsequent V6 engines showed how much they learned from the 262's failures. The 229, 262, and later 4.3-liter V6 engines were purpose-built designs that delivered the reliability and refinement the original 262 never achieved. The 262's legacy lives on as a cautionary tale about the importance of proper development and testing. Modern GM engineers reportedly study the 262's failures as examples of what not to do when developing new power plants. For collectors today, the 262 represents automotive history's biggest what not to buy. Even restoration enthusiasts avoid 262-powered vehicles, knowing that no amount of care can fix the engine's fundamental design flaws. The financial impact was staggering. Warranty claims, customer defections, and brand damage cost GM millions more than proper development would have. The 262nd became a textbook case study in business schools about short-term thinking destroying long-term value. The 262nd proved that good intentions, cost savings, and clever marketing can't overcome bad engineering. Sometimes the cheapest solution is also the most expensive mistake. The engine that was supposed to save Chevrolet instead taught them that there are no shortcuts to excellence. Sometimes failure teaches more than success. The 262 showed GM that cutting corners cuts throats, and proved that reputation takes decades to build but seconds to destroy. Hit subscribe for more stories of automotive lessons learned the hard way.